These aren't your average got lost and made it out stories. No, these are 5 of the most horrifying, claustrophobic, and painful cave deaths ever recorded. Stories where every second underground was a countdown to doom. Let's go deep, literally. The Nutty Putty Cave Incident. On November 24th, 2009, 26-year-old medical student John Edward Jones entered Utah's Nutty Putty Cave with 11 family members and friends. Though an experienced caver, John underestimated the risk. Nutty Putty had only just reopened after being closed due to prior rescues and entrapments. While most of the group stayed in beginner areas, John and his brother Josh sought out the birth canal, a notoriously tight passage. But John made a critical error. He entered an uncharted crevice, narrower and deadlier than the real birth canal. It sloped downward, measuring just 10 inches high and 18 inches wide. John wriggled in headfirst. Within minutes, he was stuck. His body wedged so tightly between limestone walls that he couldn't move forward or backward. His arms were pinned beneath him. The angle left him nearly upside down, forcing blood to rush to his head and crushing his lungs with the weight of his own organs. Josh tried pulling him out by the legs, bracing with his feet on the wall, but the position was too severe. John's breaths grew shallow, his voice weak, and his panic rising. When rescue teams arrived, they found John lodged over 400 feet from the cave's entrance in a passage no wider than a man's torso. Over the next 27 hours, they battled time, gravity, and geology. They drilled anchors, set pulleys, and even managed to lower a phone so John could speak to his wife, but every attempt to free him failed. At one point, a pulley anchor ripped free from the cave wall, slamming a rescuer into stone and sending John even deeper into the shaft, where his head was now pressed lower. His airway nearly collapsed. John's heart stopped on November 25th at 11:56 p.m. His body could not be retrieved, the cave was sealed forever, his tomb carved into stone. If you like our content, you can show your support by hitting the subscribe button and turning on notifications so you can know when we drop a new video. Wild Cave, Kentucky. On May 28, 1993, 26-year-old William Coughlin, a 6-foot, 220-pound caving enthusiast, entered a Kentucky cave with friends James and Kevin. They first completed the public historic tour. At the end, a guide offered them a shot at the Wild Tour, a dangerous off-map section requiring a signed waiver that warned of serious risks. Kevin declined. William, James, and 4 others agreed. The group, led by the guide, climbed down a 30-foot cable ladder with wooden rungs and descended a second, shorter ladder deeper into the earth. At the base, the guide casually announced that the official tour was over, but encouraged them to explore on their own. Then, inexplicably, he left to make a phone call. William, curious and emboldened, tried to climb back up the ladder to explore a side passage, but struggled. His weight and height made climbing the narrow shaft awkward and exhausting. On his second attempt, he lost his grip, falling backward. His skull struck a jagged rock with a sickening thud. Blood pooled beneath his head as he slipped into and out of consciousness. When the guide returned, he urged the group to exit the way they came, but William was too weak and confused to comply. In a desperate decision, they attempted an alternative exit route, a cramped, unmapped corridor. It was a fatal miscalculation. At a V-shaped tunnel, William went in head first. The jagged rock walls gripped him like a vice. His arms were pinned beneath his body. His chest began to compress under his own weight. Every inhale was a struggle against solid stone. By the time rescuers arrived 3 hours later, William was barely responsive. A pulley system was rigged, but every tug sent spasms of agony through his trapped body. After 17 torturous hours, he died inside the earth. It took 7 more hours to retrieve his body. Floyd Collins, Sand Cave. On January 30th, 1925, 37-year-old cave explorer Floyd Collins entered Sand Cave near Cave City, Kentucky, searching for a new passage to attract tourists. A veteran of Mammoth Cave, Collins was confident in his skills, but 150 feet into the cramped system, disaster struck. Crawling through an 8-inch high tunnel, a 27-pound limestone slab dislodged and slammed onto his left leg. The rock crushed his ankle, pinning him inside the jagged passage. The more he moved, the deeper he wedged into mud and debris. His screams echoed through the darkness as blood soaked into his boot and dirt filled his lungs with every gasp. When locals noticed he hadn't returned, Jewel Estes found Collins' coat and located him deep underground, alive but twisted and trembling. Collins' skin had gone pale, his lips were cracked, his foot mangled. Homer Collins, Floyd's brother, joined the effort and crawled into the shaft to feed and comfort him. Within hours, reporters arrived. The site turned into a media circus. Journalist Skeets Miller repeatedly risked the tunnel to interview Floyd. He described the stench of rot, the wheezing breaths, and Floyd's slow slide toward death. Efforts to free him using a harness failed. His pain was too intense. A rescue shaft was ordered, but freezing rain, collapsing earth, and poor planning delayed progress. Floyd spent over 300 hours pinned in pitch blackness. He lay in blood-streaked mud, frostbitten, half-conscious, hallucinating. When rescuers reached him on February 16th, it was too late. He had died days earlier from exposure, starvation, and dehydration. 2 months later, his body was retrieved. Floyd Collins' death shocked the nation and exposed the brutal, suffocating horror of being buried alive, one breath at a time. Thomas Edward Benning, Black Cave. In April 1995, 32-year-old Thomas Edward Benning entered Black Cave in Arizona for what he believed would be a routine solo exploration. Familiar with the cave system and confident in his abilities, he brought only a single electric miner's lamp, no helmet, no backup light, and no companion. At first, he followed the main passage, a route he had taken before, but curiosity lured him into a narrower, unfamiliar offshoot. That's when things began to spiral. His only light source began to flicker erratically, then failed entirely, plunging him into absolute darkness. In desperation, Thomas lit match after match, using the short-lived flickers to inch forward. He dropped personal items behind him, coins, wrappers, anything he could spare, to mark his path and avoid circling back unknowingly. But the matches didn't last, and the dark closed in again. Eventually, he discovered a vertical fissure in the rock, roughly 4 feet deep. Convinced it might connect back to the main route, he entered feet first. It was a fatal mistake. As his hips passed the narrowest point, the rock walls clamped around him like a vice. He couldn't go forward or backward. The more he struggled, the worse it got. His spine twisted unnaturally. His legs were wedged solid. Blood began pooling in his lower extremities, cutting circulation, starving his organs of oxygen. His breathing became shallow. His screams were swallowed by stone, trapped upright, alone, in a darkness so complete it felt alive. Time passed. Hours became days. No food, no water, no hope, just a slow, crushing descent into agony. More than 20 months later, 3 amateur cavers found his mummified corpse still jammed in the rock, locked in place, jaw agape in what looked like a scream. His tomb wasn't made of wood or stone. It was the cave itself. Peter, Sterkfontein Cave. In September 1984, 29-year-old Peter Verhulsel, a diver from Johannesburg, entered the infamous Sterkfontein Caves, part of a vast, dangerous network of submerged limestone tunnels in South Africa. Known for treacherous conditions, silt-heavy waters, and zero visibility, Sterkfontein was no place for error. But Peter wasn't the most experienced diver in his group, and he repeatedly broke the most important rule of cave diving: never let go of the safety line. The first 2 times he drifted from the guideline, his dive team managed to find and pull him back. The 3rd time, they weren't so lucky. In seconds, Peter disappeared into the black abyss of the cave system. Above ground, rescue teams quickly mobilized. Divers scoured the flooded caverns, squeezing through tight underwater channels and navigating blindly. At times, they passed within 36 meters of Peter, but the maze of tunnels and total darkness concealed him completely. Meanwhile, Peter had surfaced, not to safety, but onto a pitch-black island buried deep within the cave system. Trapped and isolated, he had no light, no food, and no way of signaling for help. He survived for an agonizing 3 weeks, licking condensation from the cave walls for hydration, while his body weakened from starvation and cold. His diving gear, now useless, lay beside him as his strength faded. In his final hours, Peter used the last of his energy to scrawl a message into the muddy cave floor. "I love you, Cheryl and Ma." When his decomposing body was discovered 6 weeks later near a sump pool, the only signs of his final days were the note and his shriveled form. His death led to an immediate ban on diving in the Sterkfontein system, but his story endures, a haunting testament to how quickly wonder can turn to horror beneath the Earth's surface. Buried alive, wedged in stone, lost in the dark, these were more than accidents. They were slow-motion nightmares with no escape. If this gripped you, share it. Comment your thoughts, and while you're at it, hit like and subscribe so you never miss a story this haunting again. Click here to watch our video on some of the most terrifying cave accidents ever. Until next time, listen to Dante Dread.